Before we start, sorry about the mysterious ticking noise in the background. There really isn't much I can do about it right now. I promise it's not the actual pipe bomb from the mysterious ticking noise, it's just my clock. Anyways, hello everyone. I know it's been a hot second, but I'm back with another speed paint commentary. In the background, you probably can see some art fight stuff, and I'll link the OC owners in the description. Also, I know I haven't asked you guys of this yet, but if you like my art and want me to draw something for you, my commissions are open and linked in the description. I also have a Kofi, and for every $3 you donate, you get a pen drawing of any character you want. I know people are kinda strapped for cash right now, so if you don't want to do it or can't, that's totally okay. I'd rather you spend money on things that you need first. Okay, so sellout portion over, let's get cooking. So you know that one person in art class who is really annoying? Like, that one person that nobody seems to like for some reason, and maybe you don't know exactly why? Or maybe people don't seem to like you very much, and you have no idea why that might be the case. Well, more often than not, this person might exhibit one of these 6 traits. 1. They get defensive when they're critiqued. 2. They are self-deprecating to a fault. 3. They're a hypocrite. 4. They price their art so cheaply that it's basically slave labor, despite it being really good art. 5. They're over-competitive and compare themselves and others to other artists all the time. 6. They're super nitpicky about everyone except for themselves. Sure, everyone has some self-doubt, and nobody enjoys getting a harsh critique. Plus, how do we even get people to buy our art? There are a lot of different reasons for these things, but this isn't really the video for it. Instead, I'm gonna talk a little about things that you can actually do, or in this case not do, to kind of address these issues. Number 1. Don't act defensive during a critique. There are several parts to this. If you go to art school, you will get critiqued, and if you get a critique, you will not always get positive feedback. However, a rude comment is not the same as a critique, but you should also learn the difference. Critiques are asked for, or offered, not given. If someone gives you a critique without asking, you have every right to say, "I'm not accepting constructive criticism for this piece," and you don't need to explain yourself. However, if you go to an art school or ask in a public space for a critique, you should not defend your art or get offended when someone points out something that they think is off about it. I know it's tempting to go off at someone, and that I know it's really difficult to not defend yourself, because even if you asked for it, even if you expect it to be coming, it still hurts your ego regardless of whether or not you have self-esteem issues. Even if you think they have it wrong or just aren't understanding you, just keep it to yourself. Maybe vent to a friend afterwards. They're not going to know the difference if you stay silent. It's just a bad look to get testy during critique, and it makes you seem conceited, even if you aren't. 2. Don't be self-deprecating, especially when you're asking for a critique. Just don't say stuff like, "LOL, this is bad, isn't it? Oh my god, rip it to shreds, critique it." Chances are there will be 2 responses. 1, jealous silence because your art is actually quite good, or 2, someone getting fed up and saying, "Yeah, it does suck, this is why." Maybe that's a little bit of an exaggeration, but still, this isn't humble. This is more like a subtle brag, or you're fishing for compliments, and you're definitely gonna make everybody uncomfortable. There might be a nice person here or there who reassures you, but this is not the way to look for critiques or compliments or just feedback on your art. It just makes you look like you're fishing for compliments by trying to guilt trip people into telling you that you're not as bad as you think you are. Instead, say something like, "I'm a little stuck on what to do for this piece. Does anyone have any suggestions?" This question is much more open-ended and implies that you're confident in your ability to make the piece better, but you also would like some input from other people, like a second opinion, basically. This is how to actually be humble. You are acknowledging yourself and others as equal who all have equally valuable and insightful opinions about your work. Self-deprecation is definitely not the same as being humble. 3. Don't be a hypocrite. If you want to offer someone critique, you had best be ready to be critiqued yourself. Giving a long-winded, nitpicky critique about someone else's art and then getting annoyed or worked up when you get a similar critique in return makes you a hypocrite. For example, if you critique someone for having bad anatomy skills, your own anatomy skills definitely should be better than theirs, or at least you need to demonstrate that you're working on it. Same with other concepts in art. If your art isn't also improving, it just means that you don't know how to critique yourself or apply the critiques that other people give you. This reflects really badly on your personality, and it makes you seem stuck up and overconfident. 4. Don't charge less than minimum wage for your work. This goes even if you are a minor or feel like your art has a long way to improve. I initially wrote a really long rant about this, but I feel like I can summarize it a little bit more cleanly now. Charging low for your commissions will directly hurt both yourself and fellow artists. Not only will you earn less money for your valuable time and work, but you are also potentially forcing other artists to drop their prices or potentially lose customers by outcompeting them. I've seen commissions that are literally cheaper than bottled water. Yeah, bottled water. Do you really think so little of yourself and your art that you think it's worth less than a bottle of tap water? I swear there are artists out there who might honestly earn more money if they just turned off their laptop to save on the electricity bill instead of accepting the commission. Seriously, if you spend 5 hours on a piece, you had better be able to buy more than a soft drink and a burger from McDonald's for it. Like, for 5 hours, I'd charge at least $75, probably more. In fact, definitely more. Like, who cares if, air quotes, nobody can afford it? They can buy one of your other options instead that don't require you to spend 5 hours on a piece. Like, not everything has to be affordable. Have like a range of prices that'll fit for every budget, and you'll find yourself a lot less stressed and overwhelmed, and you have a lot more energy in the long run to do a lot more commissions. 5. Don't compare yourself to others or vice versa. First of all, it's actually kind of rude. Like, I'm sure this is like one of the first things that you ever get told in the art community is don't compare your like friend's art to like another friend's art or whatever it is, right? Like don't compare a canon character to an OC or stuff like that. Then if you're not doing that to other people, why would you do that to yourself? A lot of comments that I see on people's art, it's like, wow, my art could never be as good as yours, or oh my god, I could never be this talented, or whatever, or I wish I was as talented as you, stuff like that. It just makes you sound guilt-trippy and negative, and it's not a cute look, it's not fun, don't do it. Instead, you could just say something positive, like, wow, your art is amazing, because that's the point, right? You want to tell them that their art is really good. Or if you really, really desperately must make some kind of comparison, you can say something like, I really admire your art and I want to learn from you, and then leave it at that. The point is to have a positive mindset instead of putting yourself down. You really do not need to put yourself down, or anyone else, in order to compliment someone. It doesn't sound humble, and it doesn't sound like a better compliment. It just sounds like you're not a fun person to be around. If you really truly think this person's art is like God's gift to humanity, and think that your own art is like dirt beneath your feet, honestly, I wouldn't try to compare them because there is no comparison to be made. Obviously, that's a bit of an exaggeration, so I'm sure nobody actually thinks like that. However, at the end of the day, if you learn anything from this point, is that you need to treat yourself the way that you want others to treat you. If you just removed like the my art is terrible implication, everyone automatically feels better, including yourself. Saying something similar to, I have a lot to learn, and I believe that you're someone that I can learn from, sounds so much better than I think my art is trash and that yours is less trash compared to mine. Because you're not saying that you're bad, you're just saying, well, I got space to grow, you know, and you're someone that I want to be like. Everyone wants to be a role model, right? If you told me that, I'd feel pretty good about myself. So that's just an easier way to say, my art may not be that great, but I believe in my ability to become better. 6. Don't nitpick other people. Everybody hates a nitpicky critique. It's always some small detail that maybe you forgot about or is just a matter of opinion. For example, I was once critiqued by a classmate for having, quote, messy line work when we were required to turn in fast sketches with flat colors. Then, when their own work went up for critique, their own lines weren't nearly as good as mine. Like, it was a fact because their lines were all hairy and wobbly, and mine were definitely not hairy or wobbly. Anyways, this kind of goes back to point number 3. If you can't do what you want other people to do, be careful, or else you will look like a hypocrite and nobody will like you. Obviously, there is a flip side to this. I had a classmate who is ridiculously good at art. There was literally never a single piece that she made that didn't look professional quality. This is the only time when nitpicking might actually be more helpful than a general critique. Often, these artists may feel stuck or think they have no more room to improve, even if they want to. This is the opportunity to weed out the small mistakes that help push their art just slightly to the next level. This is when highly nuanced and opinion-based critique is important. Personally, I think this type of critique should only come from fellow artists, and not random commonplace people on the internet. Like, this is something that only someone who genuinely has a grasp of the concepts of art can actually offer a good critique on this. Like, unless you are a professional art critic or a professional artist, you shouldn't be offering this type of critique. Because it's not nearly as simple as the hand is too large or it looks like her back is broken, which are really, really common critiques that people get. Because with these advanced techniques, it'll sound a lot more like, I think the rim light is too strong and is coming from the wrong angle. In reality, it should be coming from the other direction. Or maybe you say, your use of complementary colors could be stronger if you added more blue tones to the shadows. Or even something like, your composition would be stronger if you shifted the horizon line so it doesn't form a tangent with the roof of the house. Heck, it can even be something as small as, the highlights on the crown are inconsistent with real-life highlights due to an incorrect representation of how light refracts in jewels and bounces off of metallic surfaces which have self-reflective qualities. This stuff is really only important once there is literally nothing else to fix. So, how do you know when to switch from a more generalized critique to a more detailed one? The rule of thumb I follow is, the less experienced you are, the bigger picture you need to look at. The moment you hit a point where nobody can point out factual errors, and your art begins to be critiqued on a more opinion-based level, that's when you have officially, quote, mastered art. Obviously, if you don't intend on making a job out of your art, or you don't intend on taking commissions, or you just don't feel the need to improve efficiently, or maybe you're just not that big a part of the art community, you can pretty much throw this advice out the window, except do not make less money for your artwork than a sweatshop worker who really shouldn't be making this little anyway, but the fact that you're making less is literally criminal. I really mean it. The UN is gonna come bust you. If you feel like there's something important that I missed, let me know in the comments. I'll make a pinned comment so there's like a place for everybody's advice to go. Obviously, I can't make a video that's like 80% about critiques and not actually accept critiques about the video. That goes directly against point number 3. Again, if you like my work and want to see more, my social media and commissions are linked in the description. If you agree with what I say, let me know by hitting like, or if you really hate me, you can dislike the video because you're entitled to have an opinion, even if it's wrong. Just kidding. If you want to see another commentary video kinda similar to this one, click on the card thing on the screen somewhere and watch my video on cringe culture and why I think it's actually more cringe than anything it claims to be cringe. So like, cringeception? So, thank you so much for watching all the way to the end. Bye!